Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the special Mayor's Leaders Table meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Our clerk today will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. I'd like to first recognize that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation, and today's Mayor's Leaders Table will be held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedure Bylaw 2018, number 7272. Members have been granted the authority to attend electronically. I want to welcome Bob Moss from the wilderness of beautiful coastal British Columbia. The first item on the agenda is the introduction of late items. We have none. A motion for adoption of the agenda. Moved Dave, seconded Donna. All those in favor? Opposed? None. Motion for adoption of the minutes is circulated. Moved Donna, seconded Dave. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We have one major item on the agenda, and that's the progress update on the Compass Initiative. Ms. Hayes, Mr. Stansfield, please, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hopefully everybody got the package that was circulated by staff and have had the opportunity to read through our draft accord document. So where we are at in the process and the purpose of today's discussion is today we are coming back with our final draft of the accord that is going to go out to the participants of the process on July 23rd. And the intent at that point is to ask the various groups who participated to sign off on the accord document. So everybody was sent a copy of what we're proposing. I know that Dave has already sent some comments back. I saw that. Bob, did you have an opportunity to read through the draft document that was sent? I didn't see any comments. Okay.
Yeah, I did. Thanks very much. I'm very much in support of it in principle. There might be a little fine tuning that we can agree on, but otherwise I think it's a great start.
Great. So what we're hoping today is to get support at this table because my understanding is that from this table, we need to go before City Council, and understanding that we have an election coming up in October. So in essence, our next Mayor's Leaders Table scheduled in September would be too late to actually address this. So thank you to everybody for having this last minute special meeting. And so from this table, we would be recommending moving forward with it as a presentation to City Council and getting their support for sign off. This also is for this table because where this process originated was at the Mayor's Leaders Table, is to approve this going back to the participants of the group for them to also then have to go back to their board. So for instance, at the port, it will have to go back to our port board and get sign off there. And our next port meeting isn't till September either. So I suspect school district, everybody's going to kind of be in the same boat for that. With the hopes of having this officially signed off and for implementation to start moving forward after that September date. So that in fall, we're actively working on projects that were identified and working on the relationships that were identified in the document. Really, we've reached a point where we think we have a fairly solid document. But the intent is not to go back and make mass modifications to the document. It's just little tweaking like we talked about. I'm going to turn it over to Colin, maybe just chat a little bit more about what you think next steps look like.
Colin, please.
Sure. So I think you've covered most of it. I think the only distinction to highlight is, in putting this in front of everyone, we'll have what I've been referring to as like a signature version of this. We've been meeting with designers and talking about what this actually looks like in printed copy. And as we heard through so many of the sessions, it needs to be short, it needs to be punchy, you need to make sure that there's good imagery. And so having a 14-page document doesn't satisfy those requirements. So the intention then in having a signature copy is that if we've all endorsed it, then as we move through different iterations of printed copy for different audiences, we can uphold the spirit of the signature document, if not all of the wording remains the same. So at times, if we're moving to senior levels of government and wanting to capture their attention, if we're speaking to different investors, all of those will require subtle changes, and we don't want to have to be able to go back to the group every single time to make sure that each of those words is then adopted properly. And so I think that's the only major difference. It is then sitting with a design agency in town right now who have it 90% laid out. What it's waiting on then is just who are the endorsing organizations, what are their logos, and how do we put those pieces together? So it's, I think it accurately reflects the conversations that were had through the various Compass Initiative sessions, as well as different email exchanges in between. I want to give a really big thank you to Dave, who's been instrumental in helping get a lot of that written piece done. He's been giving me really good feedback on it. And so, assuming everyone here agrees that it accurately reflects those conversations, that we don't hear anything different on the 23rd, I think we've put together a nice piece of work.
I might just add a couple comments. While the document you received is 12 pages long, it's actually an accumulation of 2 documents. So the accord starts off with basically a letter saying, saying what the accord is about and what the preamble and introduction. And then it addresses the key components of what our shared values are, who we are, what our guiding principles are, and how we act. Lastly, followed up by our collective ambitions, which defines what we believe success looks like. That is the document itself. It is, so that's, 5 pages long. And then we actually go into, and we talked about this early on, is that the accord itself would have a living document that was attached. And what it is it's, we're calling it a transformative projects portfolio, where we've highlighted 3 of the major projects that have come out of all of our work together as a community. Highlighted there is the Duke Point Port Expansion Project, the NRGH Hospital Campus Expansion, and the Tetuxton Development. All 3 of which are fairly massive undertakings. I know we talked about this at the table. Our port project is a nation-building project. It's transformative for all of Vancouver Island, and ties into more than just the port, obviously. It will touch on things like workforce housing, as will the hospital project, and some of these relationships and components of these larger broad-based projects are actually already happening and originated at this table. So for instance, I can let you know that there is a hospital workers workforce housing project along with daycare that is happening as a result of the work at this table. Why is that important? That's important because when we get our hospital tower, which is talked about in this document, we're going to increase our workforce by 40% and have nowhere for them to live. And so that conversation has already gone to the next level, where letters of intent have been expressed, various boards have voted on it. So even though this document is maybe a little delayed to what we think some of those processes would be, those processes and relationships were developed at that table. So I think it's really important to acknowledge the success of the table already. That's just one of many opportunities that is being realized through these conversations. So that's, I believe, at the end of the day, why those 3 projects were being chosen and highlighted, because they cross so many sectors and they touch so many different organizations in our community. So I think, when Colin talks about a 14-page document, yes, but that incorporates and includes the living document, which will change over time as projects change and grow and have different demands.
Colin?
So, yeah, and so just to build on that, to get into some of the specifics about how it's being designed, it is then being designed very much as a permanent folder that has space to be able to insert those projects, so that at any given moment we could add a 4th transformative project. There could be a letter from the mayor welcoming the investors. There can be anything that can be added in, so that we do have, it's built into the design of this.
I like it.
I just want to make one final comment before we maybe open up to more questions and discussions, is how important I feel, this is coming from me as Donna Hayes, who goes to Ottawa to talk about healthcare and port projects, how important it is that this document exists for us. So when I'm meeting in Ottawa with the infrastructure minister's office, I meet at the office level as a starting point, but the end goal is to end up with deputy ministers and ministers and actually get some traction, which actually has money attached to it. The discussion of this document and how we are overlaying infrastructure in our community and how we are leveraging it against other infrastructure opportunities is what interests groups like the federal government, because it's in those conversations that they see opportunity to make strategic investment for Canada. So when I'm having a conversation about healthcare in the hospital there, and you can see, and the group's like, oh yeah, thank you very much, and and you're like, well, you do know that we're going to have a workforce housing component. They're like, oh, you're talking about how? I said, well, we're going to talk about childcare, and I also have the port portfolio, and I could talk to you. And suddenly, that afternoon, I had a meeting with the minister who stepped out of question period to spend 30 minutes with me and say, so talk to me about what you're talking about in Nanaimo. My staff gave me an update in the 5 hours since you were in their office. But I need the document, I need the paper with the pretty pictures and whatever else goes into it, so that I can get that minister to agree to come here and walk through these projects with us and say, okay, I see why I want to invest here. Your community is strategically leveraging your conversation and your assets to get traction that will encourage growth and have increased prosperity in the community you live in. So, you know I spoke to it early on when the process started. Since the process has started, I've talked about it at a number of levels. So for instance, we have the Minister of Transportation, Provincial Minister of Transportation here with us Monday morning. This is the kind of thing we talk about. Minister Kalon from the province has come to me to express an interest in seeing what's happening in Nanaimo. Well, it's because they've heard about what we're talking about. So the document is going to be incredibly powerful for us to use as a community. And I see all of us that were at the table and those of us who are going to come invest here using this document to create bigger and better projects here that have more community impact, because the projects are looked at in a different way. They're looked at what their impact is to the entire community as opposed to solely by the organization who is starting the conversation. And I think that's where the value is in this process, and I'm really excited about it because I've already seen interest sparked by what we're doing here.
Mr. Whitty.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's interesting. We started this with reference to the Freiburg Charter, and the Freiburg Charter put Freiburg on the map in a really significant way, right? The Freiburg Charter is actually quite different from what we've done, which is actually interesting because what we've done is timely where Canada is now. I may not have said that 6 months ago, a year ago, but things have changed, as we know, so significantly. And this is what people are looking for. Freiburg's was broader, sustainable, all these, the words that were in effect in the 90s, right? But these are the words that are in effect in 2026, 27, 28 likely, right? So we're on the marching edge of something here, I think. The one thing that does concern me is the signatures, and because this will only have significant impact if we have significant signatures, and need I say more? So, and I'm not sure where that's at and what conversations are being held with Snuneymuxw, but obviously Snuneymuxw is so central to what we do in this region, this city, and Vancouver Island, and in the province, actually. So I'd be interested to hear where we are on that and in terms of conversations. And then the other thing I would say is that I think the letter that goes with us, I used to say this all the time, and we did that in my consulting practice. The letter is as important as the document because it's the letter that starts it off, right? So with respect, I would say that I think it would be helpful if the table helped with the letter, because I've got some thoughts around that normally I would see in this, but I don't think they need to be in that. But I did a preamble back in January. I looked at it yesterday. I hadn't looked at it for a few months, and I think there's some imaging in there that it's broader wording. This is really precise, but I think that might be helpful. So I put that on the table. And the last thing I would say that my suggestion on this one is that, and Colin, I don't know where we're on this, but I looked at the ambitions and I see some as really critical foundational and others as outcomes. And Snuneymuxw, for instance, is number 8. And I suggested in my comments, that's got to be right up there and being respectful, because reconciliation is going to be central to everything here. So it, I didn't share it with others, but I went through and the first 3 I suggested they should stay there, but Snuneymuxw should move up from 8 to 4, and then I suggested others, and not changing the wording, but just suggesting that. So, yeah, okay.
I think you sent that to us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. I didn't see it in this draft, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, I sent you, so what I sent to staff was what Colin already sent me. He's
Oh.
redone it and sent it to me again this morning.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, he took your comments and-
Okay. Well, I'm happy to hear that. Thank you, Colin.
said to me, it's 6:28 this morning.
There. Right.
Don had already been up for 3 hours at that point.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I think I'm really happy where we are, and I'm really happy it's ours. We didn't copy Freiburg. We used that idea, took the idea, that's all. And then we changed the name. His charter wasn't appropriate. Accord works. Whoa, I'm still on. Yeah, okay. So anyway, thank you. Happy.
Any comments, Bob?
I think my comment, I'm happy to hear that there's another version that's included Dave's comments, because I thought they were meaningful. But I really wanted to thank Donna for her great work in Ottawa, but I wanted to underline how important this whole initiative is at senior levels of government. And I think all of us are increasingly getting to understand that we need to get those senior levels of government on site if we want to move ahead with any of the key initiatives that we've got. So I really think it's important that we keep that in mind throughout the whole process. But otherwise, I think we're absolutely on the right track, and I'm very supportive of the version we've got.
In some ways, I can't help but think about what my conservative friends say, and they use the phrase that Glenn Clark jokingly used back in the 90s about shoveling money off the back of the truck. And to some extent, I think that's a reasonable accusation or criticism or compliment to what's happening with Ottawa right now. I mean, debt and deficit are not uppermost in people's minds, certainly not the way they were as a topic in the 90s when, reform rose high and mighty in this country and became the official opposition. Having said that, I'm with Dave. We are at an interesting time, and boy, that's a pregnant phrase, interesting time, where this nation, historically, has often been catapulted ahead, moved forward by significant government investment or assistance. And the easy cliche, which we all know about, is the National Railway. The building of the CPR made this country. Now, that was done in conjunction with taking Indigenous lands in ways that, by current standards would not be seen as either fair or honest or decent. But we are where we are, and I just think that I don't want to go over the top in terms of visionary, but we're at a stage where this country is going to be more independent of the United States than we've been historically, where we're looking for new allegiances around the world, where our resources now, which a few years ago, I would say from the Green perspective, it was verboten. I must say personally, as an example, the concept, and I've whined about this, I think, at this table, as I've whined at every table in the last 30 or 40 years, I never understood why the good people of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland and Labrador and Prince Edward Island and New Brunswick were heating their homes with fuel that was produced in countries where women couldn't vote or even get a driver's license. When we had oil sitting in Western Canada, that was one that always troubled me. Whereas I think those attitudes are kind of changing, and I don't want to abandon or be seen to abandon a sort of green agenda, but I think it's back to the economy and jobs and security for this country. And part of that is we're part of a bigger thing. And I use Donna's phrase all the time when I say, well, there's nearly 1 million of us on Vancouver Island. That's what Donna Hayes says. You can't ignore us anymore. So, and we're the central part of that. We're the community that I think can really put it together. Now, on the social side, the ongoing street disorder, I wish we could fix that, but we're not going to fix it at the municipal level. But just simple prosperity in and of itself, getting better health care, et cetera, will all be of assistance as it draws attention to us as a community. So I just want to say, before we get into even a more general discussion, thank you to everybody, to Donna, to Colin, to Dave, to all of you who participated in the Mayor's Leaders Table to date, and all those unsung heroes are out there whose names haven't maybe popped up at these discussions. That I've always felt it was an exciting time, and some people are on board, some aren't. But I think, as Dave says, we get the signatories, and Ottawa wants to pay attention. At some point, it's like 30, 40 years ago, everyone was whining at well, what was it? The West wants in. And I just sat back and thought to myself, well, as the population grows, the West will be in. And guess what? We're in now, and getting serious attention. The central government is, which we never thought of as a central government, but an Eastern government, is now interested in us and what happens out here. And everything's working in our favor, so let's take advantage of this, and we got the ball, let's go for the goal. So, thank you. Anyways, enough rambling. 1 cup of coffee is all it took.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would ask, do we need a motion from this table to present this to council next?
Yes?
So I would like to make a motion that the Mayor's Leaders Table present the Nanaimo Accord to the City of Nanaimo Council for their approval and signature on the document,
It's revised.
as revised.
Seconded, Mr. Whitty. Mr. Lindsay, any suggestion about how we do that in a practical way?
I think it's just as simple as scheduling it for the next available meeting that works for everybody's calendar. And my only question would be then, if it's been updated, the copy that's in our agenda package.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Bob. My question was just that the copy that's in our agenda package, that's not the updated version then, just so we can get that attached to the minutes then,
Yes.
whatever the updated.
Yeah,
Okay,
Colin,
thanks.
you can send it through Ledge Services today?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we can add it as a supplemental item on the website as well.
And then our dates for, we don't meet in August, but we have 2 council meetings left in July, and
Yeah.
otherwise it would be September.
Yeah, I was going to ask about timing. Would you prefer July as opposed to September?
Yes.
So we're looking at the 20th is looking pretty full already, but the 27th, we have a meeting scheduled as well. So whatever one of those days would work best, we can try to fit it in there.
Okay. Yeah, either of those work for me.
27.
And- Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And any opposed? I can say unanimous. I like that. Consensus is good. Anything else, anyone? Next meeting date? We're scheduled for Friday, September the 11th. Again, thank you very much for this. We're getting close. We're getting close. Well, who wants to make a motion to adjourn before 9 o'clock? That's impressive. Mr. Whitty, Ms. Hayes, seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you.